The space station Kellen 9 floated quietly near the edge of a peaceful star system. It was a trade and meeting hub where ships from many worlds stopped to refuel, rest, and exchange goods. It was also a neutral ground for different alien species, to meet without fear of war or conflict. Among the many workers on this station was a young human named Rami. He worked as a security officer. His job was simple: watch the screens, check the doors, and walk the same path every day. Most days were quiet. Nothing ever happened. He didn't carry a strong weapon. He didn't wear fancy armor. Rami wasn't special. He just did his job. But today was different. The station was preparing for a special visit. A group of high-level diplomats from different alien races had arrived for a secret meeting. One of them was Teva, a tall, silver-skinned alien with glowing blue eyes. She belonged to a species known as the Dalari, respected for their wisdom and feared for their mental powers. Teva was no ordinary guest. She was a peace ambassador, someone who wanted to stop the long-standing cold conflict between the star nations. Rami was told to stay near the docking bay where Teva's ship would arrive. He stood straight, trying to look alert, even though he didn't expect anything to go wrong. The docking gates opened slowly. A group of elegant figures stepped out, led by Teva. Her long robe shimmered like water, and she moved with grace. Rami stared for a moment. He had never seen someone like her before. Teva looked around calmly, her eyes scanning the area. She nodded at the station officers, then began walking down the hallway toward the meeting hall. Rami followed at a short distance, just as part of the routine. Suddenly, everything changed. A loud noise exploded through the hall. The walls shook. Smoke poured from a nearby vent. Alarms screamed in Rami's earpiece. Panic spread fast. People ran in every direction. Rami ducked behind a wall, heart pounding. Through the smoke, he saw a group of masked figures. They wore black suits and carried strange weapons. They moved fast and aimed straight at Teva. Without thinking, Rami jumped forward. He ran toward Teva and pushed her down. One of the blasts hit Rami in the shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he didn't stop. He stood between the attackers and Teva, holding a small stun stick that was nearly useless against real weapons. "Get back!" he shouted, swinging the stick. Another blast came. It hit near his leg. He fell to one knee, still trying to protect her. More security officers arrived, shouting and firing. The attackers ran off into the smoke. Moments later, silence returned. Rami lay on the floor, breathing hard. His uniform was burned. Blood stained his sleeve. But he was alive. Teva stood beside him, untouched. Her eyes were wide, and she looked at Rami with something more than surprise. She knelt down slowly. "You saved me," she said in a quiet voice. Rami tried to smile, but it hurt too much. "Just doing my job," he said, then passed out. When Rami woke up, everything felt soft and strange. He was in the station's medical bay. Machines beeped gently. A small light above him blinked. He turned his head and saw someone sitting in the chair beside his bed. It was Teva. She sat quietly, her hands folded. When she saw Rami open his eyes, she stood and walked closer. "You're awake," she said. Rami nodded slowly. "Feels like I got hit by a starship." "You were lucky," she replied. "Very lucky." Rami looked at his bandaged arm and smiled, faintly. "Is the peace meeting still happening?" Teva nodded. "It is. But there are more threats. That attack was not random. Someone wants to stop peace before it begins." Rami stared at the ceiling. "Figures. Some people don't like change." Teva looked at him with interest. "You are not a soldier, not trained for this, yet you risked your life to protect me. Why?" Rami shrugged. "Didn't have time to think. Just saw danger and moved." Teva tilted her head. "No one else moved like you did, not even my own guards." There was a long pause. Then she spoke again, more serious this time. I have a request, she said. I want you to be my personal guard during this mission, from now until the summit ends. Rami blinked. Me? Yes, she said. You, but I'm not special. I'm just a station guard. That is exactly why I choose you, she said. You are honest, you are brave, and you are not tied to any power. That makes you more valuable than any soldier. Rami looked unsure. I don't even know how to fight properly. Teva smiled gently. Then I will teach you how to survive, and in return you will guard me, not as a weapon, but as a shield of truth. Rami looked at her, then gave a small nod. All right, I'll do it. Teva stood tall, her eyes glowing brighter. Guard me, human, she said, and I'll be more than grateful. Rami smiled again. You've got yourself a guard? And so began a journey neither of them expected. A journey through danger, secrets, and something even deeper, the kind of trust that could change a galaxy. Rami sat on the edge of the medical bed, still feeling the pain in his arm and side. His body was sore, but his mind was sharp. The moment Teva had asked him to be her guard still echoed in his head. He was just a station worker, not a soldier, not a hero. Yet she chose him. That meant something. Maybe it meant everything. Outside the medical wing, the station was busy again. Engineers repaired the damaged hallway, officers checked security systems, and visitors returned to their rooms. But everyone walked with more caution now. Everyone knew someone had tried to stop the peace mission. Teva returned to the medical bay wearing a clean robe, her silver skin glowing softly under the lights. Behind her were two tall guards from her ship. Both looked strong and serious. They wore armor and carried smooth weapons. Rami felt small in front of them. Teva raised her hand, and the guard stayed near the door. She came closer to Rami and handed him a small silver box. This is for you, she said. Rami opened the box slowly. Inside was a round metal badge with strange symbols on it. It glowed faintly with a blue light. What is it? Rami asked. It marks you as part of my protection circle, Teva said. This symbol gives you full access to my ship, and it tells others you speak with my voice. Rami stared at the badge, unsure what to say. You really trust me that much? Teva nodded. More than you know. The next hour was filled with questions. Teva explained the details of her mission. She had been sent by the Council of Stars, a group of leaders from different worlds. The Council wanted peace between old enemies who had been fighting in secret for many years. Some groups wanted war to continue. War made them powerful. They would do anything to stop peace from happening. Teva believed someone had placed a spy inside her team. That spy had helped the attackers on the station. She needed someone she could trust, someone outside her usual group. That someone was Rami. You will join me on my ship, Teva said. We travel tomorrow to the planet Zira. That is where the summit will happen. Rami felt a rush of nerves. He had never left the station before. He had never flown on a ship across deep space. He wasn't sure he was ready for all this. Teva noticed the worry on his face. You don't have to fight, she said gently. You only have to see what others miss. You think like a human. That is your strength. Rami smiled a little. All right then, let's go to your ship. Later that evening, Rami packed a small bag with a few things. A notebook, a simple old tool set, and a photo of his younger sister back on Earth. That photo was always with him. It reminded him why he stayed honest, why he worked hard. He walked through the long halls of Kellen 9 one last time. Officers nodded, at him with respect now. News had spread about how he saved the ambassador. People looked at him differently. But Rami didn't feel different. He just felt like himself. Teva waited at Dock 4. Her ship, the Orange Spark, stood like a shining blade under the station lights. It was smooth, silver, and shaped like a bird in flight. Rami took a deep breath and stepped aboard. Inside, the ship was quiet and clean. The walls gave off a soft glow. Small floating lights followed Teva as she walked. The crew greeted her with deep bows. When Rami entered behind her, they looked at him with curiosity. "This is Rami," Teva said to the crew. "He is now part of our team. He will walk beside me and watch with human eyes. Treat him with the same respect you give me." The crew nodded silently. A tall crew member named Naro stepped forward. He had green skin and wide black eyes. He spoke with a calm voice. "I will show the human to his room," Naro said. Rami followed Naro through the narrow halls of the ship. Everything felt new and strange. No screens, only floating shapes of light. No buttons, only soft panels that responded to touch. It was more advanced than anything he had ever seen. "This ship is built with living tech," Naro explained. "It grows with us. It listens. You'll get used to it." Rami's room was small but neat. It had a soft bed, a table, and a round window showing the stars. He placed his small bag on the bed and sat down. The stars outside blinked slowly. Somewhere out there, peace was waiting. Somewhere out there, danger was also waiting. That night, Rami couldn't sleep. He thought about Earth. He thought about his sister. He thought about how one small choice had changed his life. Then he remembered Teva's words. "Guard me, human," he whispered to himself. "I will." The next morning, the orange spark left the station and entered deep space. The stars moved fast outside the ship. The journey to planet Zira had begun. Teva met Rami in the observation room. They stood beside a large round window where stars moved, like rivers. "There's something I haven't told you," Teva said quietly. Rami looked at her, waiting. "There is a rumor," she said, "that someone will try to stop the peace talks not just with words, but with something much worse. I don't know what yet, but I feel it coming." Rami nodded. "Then we better be ready." Teva smiled faintly. "You remind me of someone I once knew. Brave, quiet, and always looking deeper." Rami didn't know what to say. He just looked out the window at the stars. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Trust, hope, and the beginning of something more than just duty. Their journey had only just begun. The orange spark moved through deep space like a silent arrow. Stars passed by the windows as the ship traveled at high speed toward planet Zira. Rami had never seen anything like it. The ship made no sound, but it felt alive. The lights inside. The halls changed colors as the ship moved. The air smelled clean, almost sweet. The walls hummed with quiet energy. Each morning, Rami joined Teva in the main hall. She showed him parts of the ship and explained how her people lived. Rami listened carefully. Everything was new to him. The Dalari didn't use loud commands or sharp orders. They worked with calm movements, soft words, and trust. Their ship ran on thought and will, not wires and engines. Teva had given Rami a bracelet that allowed the ship to understand his voice. When he wore it, doors opened for him, screens lit up, and walls showed maps when he asked for directions. Rami was amazed by how smooth and quiet everything felt. But deep inside, he still stayed alert. He knew this mission was not safe. Day during a rest hour, Teva called Rami to the ship's training room. The room was wide and empty, with a floor that could change shape. Rami stepped in and looked around. "I want to show you how we defend ourselves," Teva said. "You may not carry weapons, but your mind and your body can still protect you." She touched the wall and 2 wooden sticks appeared in her hands. She handed one to Rami. "Try to block me," she said. Rami smiled nervously. "I've never Done this before. Teva nodded. Then it's time to begin. They moved slowly at first. Teva swung gently, and Rami blocked. Then she moved faster. Her steps were light, almost like dancing. Rami struggled to keep up. He stumbled once, but got back on his feet. After some time, he managed to block 3 of her moves in a row. Teva stepped back, breathing slowly. "You learn quickly," she said. Rami smiled. "I just don't want to fall again." "You have good focus," she said. "That's rare." After training, Rami sat alone in the rest corner, thinking about the lessons. He realized something important. He didn't have to be the strongest. He just had to stay calm and think clearly. That was the real power Teva wanted him to use. 3 days into the journey, trouble came without warning. Rami was walking through the ship's lower hall when the lights flickered. A red line flashed along the wall. The alarm sound was soft but clear. Rami touched his bracelet. "Where is the problem?" he asked. The ship answered with a light map. A small room near the engine core was marked in red. Rami ran toward it. When he arrived, he saw Naro and 2 other crew members already there. A small device had been placed near the wall. It blinked with red lights. Naro looked worried. "It's not ours," he said. "Someone planted it here." Rami stepped closer. He saw the shape and wiring. It looked like an old Earth tool used for tracing ship paths, but this one had extra parts. Someone had turned it into a tracker. "They're trying to follow us," Rami said. Naro looked surprised. "You know this device?" Rami nodded. "It's like something I've seen in human smuggler ships. They track movement across systems. This one was changed to hide under the ship's sensors." Naro gently picked up the device and turned it off. "Someone on board is helping the enemy," he said. Teva arrived a few minutes later. When she saw the device, her face grew still. "Put it in the secure room," she said, "and check the rest of the ship. If one was planted, there may be more." She turned to Rami. "Good work," she said. Rami shook his head. "I just recognized something. Anyone else could have found it." "But they didn't," she said. "You did." That evening, Teva called a quiet meeting in her private chamber. Only 5 people were there: herself, Rami, Naro, and 2 of her oldest advisors. A floating screen showed the route of the ship. A second screen showed the enemy signals that had tried to follow them. "They know where we're going," Teva said. "They will try to stop us before we reach Zira." One of the advisors spoke. "We must turn around." "No," Teva said. "If we turn back, the talks will fail. Peace will be delayed again. That will only help those who want war." The room fell silent. Rami finally spoke. "What if we make them think we changed course?" Everyone looked at him. "We fake a course change," Rami said. "Let the tracker send false signals. They follow the wrong path while we take a hidden way to Zira." Teva smiled. "A clever idea." Naro nodded. "We can reprogram the signal. Make it send ghost movement." "Do it," Teva said. The next 2 days were tense. The ship followed a hidden path through asteroid fields and old supply routes. Rami stayed close to Teva. They talked often, not just about the mission, but about their past lives. Teva spoke about her world, the floating cities, the singing waters, and the quiet temples where her people studied thought and light. Rami spoke about Earth, the crowded cities, the street markets, and the green parks where he once played with his sister. They both came from different worlds, but something between them felt close. Not romance, not yet, but a growing respect that went beyond words. On the 6th day, just as they neared the edge of Zira's system, a strange ship appeared. On the radar, it had no name, no flag, and no open signal. Rami stood beside Teva in the control room. "Should we talk to them?" Rami asked. Teva shook her head. "They come with silence. That means danger." The strange ship started to move closer. "They're charging something," Naro said. Energy build-up. Rami looked at Teva. We need a plan. Teva looked out at the stars. Then it begins now. The unknown ship moved closer to the orange spark, slow but steady. No lights flashed, no voice came through the communication line, just silence and motion. Inside the control room, every crew member stood ready. Weapons were charged. Shields were up. Everyone waited for a signal that never came. Rami stood beside Teva, watching the ship on the screen. His hands were cold, but his mind stayed sharp. He had seen this kind of move before. A quiet ship, no markings, no words. It meant someone wanted to strike without being seen. Pirates, maybe. Or worse, a hired group sent to stop them from reaching Zira. Naro looked at the readings. Their power levels are rising again. They are about to fire. Hold shields steady, Teva said. Do not shoot first. Let them show their hand. Rami leaned closer to the screen. Something's not right. Look at their path. They are not coming toward the center of the ship. They are aiming at the side engine. Teva turned to Naro. Move us out of range, but it was too late. A thin beam of red light shot from the enemy ship. It hit the edge of the orange spark. Sparks flew. The ship shook. The lights blinked twice before steadying. The crew stayed on their feet, calm but tense. They missed the core, Naro said, but they damaged the side drive. We'll move slower now. Teva looked at the screen with steady eyes. Send a false signal. Make it look like we are retreating. Naro pressed a few buttons. A second later, the orange spark released a ghost signal, a fake energy trail that made it look like they were moving in the opposite direction. The enemy ship followed the false trail, unaware that the real ship had slipped away into the shadows of an asteroid field. That night, the crew repaired the damage. Rami helped carry tools and checked the ship's security panels. He didn't understand the ship's full systems, but he knew how to handle simple repairs. While he worked, his mind stayed on the enemy ship. Someone knew their path. Someone knew the ship's weak spot. Someone was helping the enemy from the inside. He kept this thought in his mind and walked to the main storage room. The room was filled with boxes and supplies, stacked neatly. But something caught his eye, a set of crates with the wrong mark. The symbol on them was not from Teva's home planet. It was from a merchant world known for selling information. Rami opened one of the crates. Inside, he found communication chips, long-range, silent, and untraceable. Not part of the normal supply list. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Malin, the second officer of the ship, a tall man with dark eyes and quiet steps. He looked calm as always, but his eyes paused on the open crate. You shouldn't be here, Malin said. Rami didn't move. These crates don't belong here. You know that. Malin smiled faintly. You are not from this ship. You don't know what belongs and what doesn't. Rami stepped forward. Then tell me, why do these chips have codes from a spy network? Malin said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Rami didn't wait. He turned and pressed his bracelet twice. It was the signal Teva had given him in case of danger. Within moments, 2 guards entered the storage room and saw the open crate. Teva arrived shortly after. She looked at Malin. Is this true? Malin didn't deny it. Peace will not work, he said. It never does. It's a lie. These talks are a waste of time. Teva's face turned cold. You fed our path to the enemy. I saved us from failure, Malin replied. You betrayed us, she said. Malin was taken to the holding chamber. Teva stood beside Rami, silent, for a long time. You were right, she said at last. Someone was helping them. Rami nodded. I saw the clues. I just followed the pattern. Teva looked at him. You've saved this mission twice already. What drives you? Rami thought for a moment. I guess I want to prove that humans can do more than survive. We can help. We can be part of something bigger. Teva looked at him, her voice softer now. You are already part of something bigger. The next morning, the crew met to plan their final move towards Zira. Without the side engine, the journey would be slower. But the path was clear now. The enemy had followed the ghost signal. Malen was under guard. The rest of the team trusted, Rami fully now. As the ship moved forward, Teva asked Rami to join her in the meditation chamber. It was a round room filled with soft light and slow-moving air. Floating stones circled above a glass floor. The room was meant for calm thought and silent strength. Teva sat on one side and pointed for Rami to sit across from her. We're almost there, she said. Are you ready? Rami asked. Teva closed her eyes. No one is ever fully ready, but I know this must be done. Rami looked around the chamber. I've never seen a room like this. It is not for talking, she said. It is for feeling. He sat quietly, letting the silence speak for itself. Minutes passed without words. Then Teva opened her eyes. I once thought humans were weak, she said. But you are different. You listen. You feel. You see what others miss. Rami smiled. Maybe we just pay attention. She stood and walked to the window. The stars were clearing now. A large blue planet came into view. Zira, she said. The place where peace may begin. Or where it may end. Rami stood beside her. Then, let's make sure it begins. The planet Zira grew larger as the orange spark came closer. From space, it looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green lands, and white clouds floated over its surface. But Rami had already learned not to trust appearances. Zira had once been the heart of war. Cities had fallen here. Skies had burned. Now, the leaders of many worlds had chosen this broken planet to try again for peace. Inside the control room, Teva stood tall. Her voice was calm, but Rami could see the tension in her eyes. Naro stood beside her, checking the landing data. The ship was still damaged from the last attack. It would need repairs after landing. Is the summit site safe? Rami asked. Teva gave a slow nod. There is a protection dome around the summit center. No weapons can be used inside, but the risk is still there. Danger always finds a way. The ship entered the atmosphere. Heat wrapped around the shields as it passed through. The clouds. Below, a tall white tower rose from the ground. Around it were flat buildings and wide walkways. That was the peace zone, a place where fighting was forbidden by ancient code. The ship landed gently near the summit gate. A group of local guards waited outside. Their faces were hidden under smooth silver masks. One stepped forward and bowed. Welcome to Zira, he said. We are honored by your arrival. Teva stepped out first. Rami followed behind her, walking with steady steps. He wore a simple black suit now, marked with Teva's seal. A few other ambassadors had already arrived. Some looked curious when they saw Rami. A human guard was not a normal sight. Inside the summit center, the walls were made of white stone. Light came from glowing crystals set into the roof. There were no weapons, no soldiers inside, only leaders, advisors, and peacekeepers. The hall was quiet, but every step echoed. Teva was shown to her chamber. It was small but elegant. She sat on a low seat while Rami checked the room. He looked under the table, behind the wall panel, and near the window. All clear. You are serious about this, Teva said with a faint smile. After all we've been through, I won't take any chances, Rami replied. She nodded. Good, because I fear something is coming. Later that day, Teva and Rami walked to the outer gardens. Other ambassadors were there, talking softly. The summit would begin in the morning. Tonight was for greetings and silent judgments. Eyes watched every move. Every word mattered. A short alien with gold skin approached them. He had bright eyes and a voice like soft bells. Teva, he said, Still brave, I see. And who is this beside you? This is Rami, Teva replied. My protector. A human? The alien asked. Interesting choice. He has proven his value more than once, she said. The alien bowed slightly and walked away. Rami looked at Teva. That sounded like a warning. Not all here want peace, she said. Some smile in the light and strike in the dark. Rami stayed close as they walked back to the chamber. On the way, he noticed a strange panel near the wall. It was slightly open, just enough to show a shadow behind it. He paused, leaned in, and saw wires that looked recently touched. Teva, he said quietly. Someone has been here. She followed his eyes. That panel connects to the summit. Hall. Rami looked around. No guards nearby. No cameras in this part of the hall. Let me check it, he said. He opened the panel carefully. Inside were power wires and control chips, but one device didn't match. It was small and black, hidden behind the others. A pulse chip, Rami whispered. If this goes off during the summit, it could break the protection dome. That means weapons could be used inside. Teva's face became serious. Remove it. Rami used his old tool set. His fingers moved fast and steady. He had learned tricks back on Earth, fixing old machines. Now those skills were saving lives. He disconnected the chip and placed it in a sealed bag. Teva called Naro and ordered a full search of the building. They would check every wall, every panel. Someone was planning to break the rules of the summit. That night, the summit building stayed quiet. Teva sat in her chamber, thinking deeply. Rami stood near the window, watching the empty garden below. We stopped one trap, he said. But there may be more. Teva looked at him. Your eyes see what others ignore. That's why I trust you. Rami sat down across from her. You once asked why I protect you. The truth is, I believe in what you're doing. If peace is possible, I want to help make it real. Teva nodded slowly. Tomorrow will be the true test. Morning came with clear skies. The summit hall, filled with leaders from every major world. Each took their seat at the long round table. Light poured down from the ceiling, touching each face equally. Teva stood at her place. Rami stayed at the edge of the hall, watching every corner. The first speaker rose, then another. Words were spoken with care, promises were made, agreements were considered. Then, as Teva rose to speak, the lights flickered. A small sound echoed from the far wall. Rami turned fast. His eyes caught a shadow near the exit. He moved quietly, but quickly. The shadow slipped into the hallway. Rami followed. Outside, the halls were empty. Rami moved like a whisper, tracking the footsteps. He saw a figure kneeling near another wall panel, the same kind of setup as before. Without warning, Rami stepped forward and locked the figure's arm behind their back. The person struggled, but Rami held firm. He pressed a small lock device against the attacker's wrist. It froze their suit. Guards arrived seconds later. They took the figure away. Teva appeared, her face calm, but her eyes sharp. Another one, Rami said. Just in time. Teva placed a hand on his shoulder. You may have just saved the summit. The meeting continued without further trouble. At the end, the leaders stood together. For the first time in many years, all sides signed the peace agreement. As the sun set over the hills of Zira, Teva and Rami stood near the summit gates. The day had been long, but the goal had been reached. You did more than guard me, Teva said softly. Rami smiled. And you did more than lead. They looked out at the stars, both knowing the mission wasn't over yet, but the hardest part had passed. Peace had a chance now, because one human chose to stand in the way of fear. Peace was signed, but danger still moved quietly. The summit was over. The leaders had returned to their ships. Teva and Rami stayed behind to complete final checks and send a full report to the Union High Council. Teva sat in the summit chamber alone, now reading the final terms again. Her eyes moved across every word carefully. She knew that even one mistake could be used to break the agreement. Outside, Rami walked through the lower halls of the summit tower. His steps were light and quiet, but his eyes missed nothing. He had learned that enemies don't always attack in battle. Sometimes they hide in peace. He passed through the hall where he had caught the shadowed figure yesterday. The wall panel was sealed now. Guards had placed new locks, but Rami still didn't trust it. Suddenly his wrist link buzzed. Rami, come to the top deck at once, Teva's voice said. He turned and ran without a word at the top of the tower. Teva stood near the edge. Her face was serious. There is something wrong, she said. The ship from Orcs left too early. They didn't speak to anyone after the signing. Rami frowned. Didn't they support the peace terms? They did, or they said they did, she answered. But they didn't wait for the joint statement. They just left. Rami looked toward the sky. One trail of light marked a recent launch. I'll check the summit records, he said. Back in the summit control room, Rami sat in front of a wide screen. He entered the data logs. All ship movements were recorded and timed. He checked the Orcs ship. It had left 12 minutes after the signing ceremony. Too early for a formal goodbye. Too early for a full copy of the agreement. He looked deeper. The ship had downloaded part of the peace file, but not the full version. That meant they didn't want proof of what they had signed. Something's not right, Rami whispered. He opened the private message logs. Only summit staff and leaders could access them. But the Orcs leader had sent a message before leaving. It was short. Just one line. We have what we need. Zero was useful. Rami showed the message to Teva. Her eyes narrowed. They never wanted peace, she said. They just used this summit to hide their plan. What plan? Rami asked. Teva thought for a moment. The Orcs used to build deep probes, energy harvesters for dead planets, but their program was closed 5 years ago. Something about missing workers and lost tech. Rami sat down slowly. You think they were building something else? Teva nodded. Yes, and they needed a safe place to move it without notice. The summit gave them that. They brought something here, Rami said, or took something from here. That night they walked to the Summit Archive, a place where old records from many planets were stored. Most were peaceful items, history files, culture art, even old star maps. But Teva believed something else had been hidden here. The room was large and quiet. Rows of glowing tablets lined the shelves. Rami moved between them, quickly, scanning labels and codes. He stopped near the back, a section marked Class D restricted. These files were sealed, he said. Only a few could open them. Teva came closer. She placed her hand on the scanner. The system unlocked. Inside were maps of space regions long lost, zones where stars had collapsed and energy fields were unstable. Teva pointed to one file. This is the Skarn Rift. It's too dangerous for travel. No ships go near it. Anymore. Rami opened the map. The Orcs ship had sent a signal just before leaving. A silent burst sent in that direction. They're heading there, Rami said. Teva looked at the map again. There are rumors a weapon hidden deep in the rift before the First War, a device that can break gravity itself. Rami stood up. Then they're going to find it, or already have. Next morning, a message came from the Union High Council. Teva. Your mission has changed. Report to the star post above Zira. You are to lead a special task group to the Skarn Rift. Teva looked at Rami. They know what we found. Rami smiled a little. Good, now we can stop it before it's too late. The new ship, Starwatch Light, was ready within hours. It was faster than the Orange Spark and built for long travel. Rami packed only what he needed. Weapons, tools, and a small journal he never let go of. Teva joined him on the ship's bridge. Naro was already waiting with a small crew. We may not come back from this. Naro said, "The rift eats ships." Teva answered simply, "Then we will stay sharp and stay alive." The ship launched, its engines burned bright as it rose from Zira into the stars as they left the planet. Rami looked down one last time. "So much trouble for peace," he said quietly, "but worth it." Teva replied. 3 days later, they neared the edge of the Skarn rift. The stars began to twist. Colors changed. Space itself seemed to bend. The ship slowed and shields increased. "Scan the area," Teva ordered. Naro checked the controls. "There's something ahead, a station, or what's left of one." On screen, a broken ring floated in the dark. Parts of it still glowed faintly. The Orvax ship was docked nearby. They found it, Rami said. "Now we find out what they plan to do with it." The Star Watch light stayed hidden behind an asteroid. Rami and Teva prepared for a silent entry. They would board the broken station, find the device and disable it. Time was short. The Orvax had already started something. A soft pulse shook the air even in space. "Whatever it is," Rami said. "It's waking up," Teva nodded. "Then let's end this before it opens its eyes." With that, they launched the boarding pods toward the dark station. The final stage of their mission had begun. The boarding pod moved slowly through the broken rings of the old station. Pieces of metal floated in silence. Faint blue lights blinked along the station's walls. Inside the pod, Rami and Teva checked their gear one last time. "We go in quiet." Teva said, "No gunfire unless needed." Rami gave a quick nod. His eyes stayed on the hatch. He could feel the tension growing. Whatever the Orvax were doing here was already close to working. The pod locked onto the station's side. The hatch hissed. Open inside the station, dust floated in the air like fog. Every step echoed. Teva moved ahead with her scanner. The signals were strange. Energy spikes came from deep within the core of the station. Rami walked behind, watching their path. He placed small markers along the way. A clear route back could save them later. They passed through an old control room. Screens showed broken images. Some flickered between maps of space and strange waveforms. Teva stopped at one screen. It showed a glowing circle inside the circle. "Lines moved like a heartbeat. It's active," she said. Rami looked closer. "The lines were rising fast. We don't have much time," he replied. In the center of the station was a large chamber. Metal walls curved like a dome. In the middle stood a tall device. It looked like a tower, but the base pulsed with light. 4 Orvax stood around it, checking screens and placing energy cells. One of them turned. It was the Orvax leader. His eyes were calm, but sharp. "So the humans came after all," he said. Teva stepped forward. "This weapon is forbidden. You know that." The leader smiled. "This is not a weapon. This is a key. A key to break the wall between time and energy." Rami frowned. "You plan to collapse the rift." The Orvax nodded, "and open a path to the core of dead space. There are things beyond stars. Old things lost to us." Teva raised her voice. "Things that destroyed whole systems. We saw the records. You fear what you don't understand," the leader said. "No," Rami replied. "We remember what others forgot." The Orvax turned back to the device. "We are already too close. The system has linked to the rift. We cannot stop it now." Teva looked at Rami. He gave a short nod. They moved fast. Teva pulled a disruptor from her side. Rami jumped behind a broken panel and aimed his tool at the power line. A bright flash filled the room. The station shook. The Orvax guards turned. Shouting, 2 of them charged toward Teva. She ducked low and rolled aside. Her disruptor fired and hit the floor between them. Sparks flew as the metal cracked. Rami pulled wires from a side wall. He connected his power blade and slashed the line. The main light of the tower flickered. "Now!" he shouted. Teva ran toward the device. One of the Orcs blocked her. They struggled for a moment, but Teva pushed him back with her shoulder and jumped to the core panel. She opened the hatch and pulled the main control cell. The tower stopped pulsing. Silence filled the chamber. The Orcs leader stared at the dark tower. His calm face was now full of anger. "You destroyed our only chance." "No," Teva said. "We stopped you from destroying everything else." The station shook again. This time it was not from them. Naro's voice came through the comm. "The rift is reacting to the tower's last pulse. It's pulling the station in." Rami's eyes widened. "We need to leave now." They ran through the same halls they came from. Pieces of the station began to break. Gravity shifted. One wall bent like soft cloth. Their boots slid as the floor tilted. The boarding pod was still attached. Rami jumped in first and helped Teva through. The hatch closed. Just as a beam of light cracked the hallway behind them, the pod launched back toward the Starwatch light inside the ship. Naro moved quickly to guide the pod. In the rift's energy made the space around them unstable. The pod locked into place, and Rami and Teva climbed out. "Get us out now," Teva ordered. Engines roared. The ship pulled back from the rift as the old station twisted and vanished. Behind them, the rift sparked with silent waves, then slowly faded back to stillness. Hours later, the Starwatch light rested safely beyond the danger zone. Teva stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. "They'll try again someday," she said. "Yes," Rami replied. "But so will we. We'll be ready." Naro joined them and placed a small item on the table. It was the control cell from the Orcs tower. "I think the council should see this," he said. Teva nodded. "We'll return to the Union and report." "Everything," Rami smiled a little. "But after that, I think I'll take a break. You've earned it," she said. The mission was over. The rift was quiet again. But the memory of what happened would stay. Rami and Teva had protected more than a planet. They had guarded a path to the future, and now the stars were safe again. For now,